There are over 550 million firearms in worldwide circulation. That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is,
there is a trading arena bigger than Binance, bigger than Wall Street, bigger than oil futures. It is called the globe. And in this market, the traders are countries. The assets are oil, ports, currencies, alliances, sanctions, armies, shipping routes, public opinion, and people. Iran is not just a country in this chart. Iran is a position. The United States looks at Iran the way a trader looks at a resistance zone that has rejected price for 47 years. Since 1979, America has tried sanctions, isolation, pressure, proxy moves, negotiations, assassinations, cyber attacks, nuclear deals, broken nuclear deals, and more sanctions. Every administration opened a different position. Some small, some leveraged, some hedged. Trump looked at the same chart and thought, now, this is the breakout. Before Iran, there was Venezuela. That was the earlier trade. Venezuela was like opening a huge position against a weak coin after bad news. Low liquidity and a broken structure. Pressure campaign, military buildup. Strikes, oil pressure, political pressure. Reuters reported that Trump's Venezuela campaign included a ramped-up U.S. military presence and more than 24 strikes on vessels near Venezuela, killing at least 90 people. That kind of trade can inflate a man. One big green candle, and suddenly he thinks he understands the market. Then comes Iran. But Iran is not Venezuela. Iran has a different chart. Iran has Hormuz. And Hormuz is not just a coastline. Hormuz is leverage. Roughly a fifth of global oil and gas flows were affected by the Strait of Hormuz disruption after the US-Israeli strikes against Iran. According to Reuters commentary, that means Iran doesn't need to beat America everywhere. It only needs to touch the artery. A trader calls it liquidity. A military calls it a choke point. Same thing. The United States opened the trade thinking Iran was the target. But Iran moved the price to oil. Suddenly Japan is in the trade. Japan relies on the Middle East for around 95% of its oil supplies, with around 70% coming through Hormuz. South Korea is in the trade. Axis reported that about 70% of South Korea's crude oil imports route through Hormuz, making it one of the hardest hit non-combatant countries. China is in the trade. Reuters reported that China imports roughly as much Gulf oil as India, Japan, and South Korea combined. Russia is in the trade too. But Russia is not getting liquidated. Russia is catching the candle. Reuters reported that Russia's oil and gas revenue was expected to rise 39% year-on-year in May because of the Iran war. That is the sick beauty of macro trading. One trader's stop loss is another trader's take profit. The Arab Gulf countries are also inside the position. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Oman, they are not just spectators. They are holders of the asset. Their export routes, ports, pipelines, and economic models depend on the same dangerous corridor. Reuters reported that Gulf Arab states did not ask the US to go to war with Iran, but later pressed Washington not to stop short while Iran could still threaten the Gulf's oil lifeline. That is not morality. That is risk management. They are saying, you opened the trade. Now don't close it halfway and leave us holding the bag. But the UAE has a hedge, a pipeline to Fujairah. Still, even that hedge is imperfect. Reuters reported that the UAE is more able than some Gulf peers to withstand Hormuz disruption because of its pipeline. But the war still threatens its role as a secure regional business hub. That's what hedging looks like in geopolitics. Not safety, just less bleeding. Now look at China. China sees the same chart and says, how much reserve do we have? How much can we reroute? How much can we absorb? How much can we buy from Russia? How much can we turn this into American weakness? That is not emotional trading. That is position management. Japan and South Korea, meanwhile, are more exposed. They are like traders with good discipline but bad entry conditions. They didn't open the Iran trade, but they are still paying the funding fee. This is where war becomes disgusting, because the person who opens the trade rarely pays the full liquidation. Trump can lose reputation. The US can lose money. Congress can act as institutional stop loss. But ordinary people lose fuel prices. Inflation, jobs, sons, daughters, sleep, rent, food, future. Reuters reported that the Iran war had already saddled global companies with a $25 billion bill and counting. That is not abstract. That is the liquidation receipt. And Trump? Trump is not trading with one account. The presidency is one account. His hotels are another. Real estate another. Media another. Brand another. Inner circle another. If the presidency account gets damaged, he still has other ecosystems praising him, protecting him, inflating him. That is why the trade is asymmetric. If he wins, he wants legacy, the man who sold the Middle East. If he loses, the loss is distributed. That is not a trade. That is a gamble with public liquidity. And the most dangerous trader is not the beginner. The most dangerous trader is the beginner after one big win. Because now he thinks the chart loves him. Venezuela gave him confidence. Iran gave him reality. Hormuz hit the stop loss. Oil moved. Asia got dragged in. Russia benefited. Arab countries hedged and panicked. China calculated. Japan and Korea absorbed pain. And ordinary people became tiny candles inside someone else's macro chart. That is war. A leveraged trade opened by men who don't personally get liquidated. And when they say a national interest, listen carefully. Sometimes it means security. Sometimes it means oil. Sometimes it means ego. Sometimes it means, I entered too big, too late, with no stop loss. And now I need the whole world to help me exit.
There are over 550 million firearms in worldwide circulation. That's one firearm for every 12 people on the planet. The only question is, how do we arm the other 11? How do we arm the other 11?